A warm welcome to this presentation. My name is Mhairi Laughlin and I'm a principal at West Lothian College, which is in Livingston. However, the presentation today really could be said for any one of 41 colleges in Scotland, so the messages I give today and the information really would be valid for most and almost all of the colleges. There are one or two specialist colleges that are a wee bit different, but the vast majority this would apply to. So I think it's important to use this description. We've called it College a Positive Choice. And the reason that I've used that is because I think we've moved a long way from the days when colleges were quite frankly seen as simply a destination for either those who couldn't get into university or those who didn't have a job to go to or for whom they didn't know what they wanted to do next. And over recent years, I think this is really quite important, we have seen increasing numbers of young people actively choosing college programmes as their preferred choice and as part of their career path, and that has certainly changed over recent years. We've got an example this year of one young man who's come from one of the local high schools, and he came to us with 5 hires, all at good passes, and clearly could have gone into university, and instead he's chosen the route in through the higher national and engineering because he wants to get as much practical application as he can as part of his study. So that was a very deliberate choice for him and a different path for him to take. A wee bit by way of background to the colleges, and if you know colleges you'll know some of this, and if you're not as familiar then you might not. There are currently 41 colleges in Scotland, and even with the imminent changes to the college structure, you might know about regionalisation and the changes to college service. However, even with that, there will still be 41 or so college campuses, and the locations will not change, and that's been a very clear message from government. Whilst the organisational structures might be reduced, the number of campuses and availability of learning and skills will not. So it puts further education really firmly within the reach of the vast majority of young people and makes for many a much more financially viable option. And there's such key strengths in the college-school partnerships, really key strengths in college employer partnerships, and equally strengths in college and university partnerships. And I'm going to come back to these a wee bit later on to talk about them and use some case studies as examples. What is it that colleges are aiming to do? In line with recent consultations and government policy, there are now very clear priorities laid out for the sector, and we appreciate that might have an impact on other learners. But we are being asked to focus on opportunities for 16 to 19-year-olds, 19 to 24-year-olds who are not in employment, and also low-skilled adults in the workplace. I would want to say though, this does not mean that other students will be excluded from colleges. I know there's a concern just now, particularly in some of the areas of community learning and development, where we have had really good partnership work on building up the confidence of adults in the community progressing into college, and there is no suggestion that that will still not happen. But in terms of some of our mainstream provision, we are very clearly being asked to prioritise that. But we do aim to deliver on the Scottish Government's ambition, and that really is to drive up the aspiration and building some positive futures for learners. You'll know as well that college is a place where youngsters often actually get to mature and provide some valuable work experience and industry links so that they can progress on to positive destinations, whether that's employment, whether it's university, or whether in some cases, as I'll talk about later, a business startup. Another of the key priorities for the sector is to ensure, and there's a big drive on this just now, is that all learning delivered in college leads wherever possible to accreditation. And primarily in colleges, that would be through the running of national qualifications, higher national certificates, higher national diplomas, and in some colleges, degrees often validated by a neighbouring university. Many colleges also deliver a range of specific industry-led qualifications, either as a standalone basis or as part of a framework. But a wee bit about college estates and environments. Over the past 10 years, there has been significant and substantial investment in college estates. My own experience at West Lothian College now in Livingston was the first at that time fully PFI procured new purpose-built college in Scotland for some 25 years. But we came from a college that was crumbling, falling down, leaking roofs, you name it, we had it. So That was 10 years ago, and that's made such a substantial difference to the students. But there have been a raft of investments in colleges, ranging from full-scale refurbishments to fully new purpose-built campuses. And I don't know if any of you have been to North Glasgow, Motherwell, Langside, Cardonald. I could go on. There are a whole range of college investments. But they're also really learner-focused and personal, and I think this is one of the most important points about colleges. In general, students fit in and settle really well into college life, and there really is a wealth of personal support available. So I always say to students, colleges are big enough to be different, they're big enough to be interesting, you meet new people, but they're not so big that they're impersonal, and people do get to know you in colleges. And a wealth of personal support available, from straightforward bursary and financial advice right through to quite detailed and personal support for students with additional needs. In addition, though, equipped to really high specifications in some areas, the resources for learners have probably never been better in some areas, with up-to-date equipment to support a whole range of vocational programmes. And that's all designed to try and give students maximum opportunity to develop practical skills. So I'm sure that you may know, that a number of colleges have fully equipped workshops for engineering, carpentry and joinery, construction, hospitality and food production kitchens, hairdressing and beauty therapy, always a popular area, motor vehicle studies, paint and decorating, electrical studies, and some highly specialised facilities in colleges by way of science labs and some of the land-based facilities. So really a huge range there. And for many students, coming to college gives them the experience of a much more wide and diverse population. I think the role that colleges play in encouraging inclusion and diversity is really quite a valuable one, both for the students but also for the wider community. And it's practical and fun. Many of the vocational areas have real live working simulations which encourage customer contact and the development of employability skills, which really bring alive for students the links between theory and practice. And our students get involved with countless cross-college fundraising activities. There's not a week goes by when you don't hear about something going on in a college which students are organising over and above their studies, and it really enriches the experience for them at their time at college. I said I would return to the partnership work because I think this is one of the key areas in terms of the range of opportunities that young people can have at college. So we've, in terms of going on to look at case studies, great partnerships with the schools, particularly S3 to S6, partnerships with employers through work experience, industry placements and modern apprenticeships, work with the business community through the Prince's Scottish Youth Business Trust, PSYBT is easier to say, Business Gateway, through other colleges, a lot of work between partner colleges on HNCs and HNDs, and then work with universities on the HNC and HND articulation to degree routes. So just to touch on each of these areas in a wee bit of detail. The first partnership case study is from my own college, although again could be in any one of several. We have a vocational partnership with the 11 secondary schools in West Lothian. And through that partnership, which is well established, we've been working with the schools for in excess of 10, probably near 15 years. We have around 450 young people who come into college every single week as part of a part-time programme designed with the school timetablers so that they can undertake some vocational study in college as part of their school study to complement the subjects they're doing in school. A lot of work and effort has gone into establishing that partnership and also enabling it, because it does mean the 11 schools coming together, common timetabling slot, common timetabling with the college to allow all that transfer of students. But 450 a week is a fairly substantial number. It could be double that if we actually were able to take all the demand we have for that. So really successful because it actually prepares, it gives youngsters a real awareness of what some of the vocational programmes are about, because quite often they come not as informed as they might be. It also helps them get to know the college environment, get to know the staff actually, and makes it much more likely that they'll progress on to a full-time programme because they're a bit more confident about that. And I know from talking to youngsters in schools that it makes a big difference when they come along to interview if they actually know or recognise the members of staff who are interviewing them. This year, the continued development of the partnership work with the schools is that, and again you'll probably be aware, there's quite a pushback into schools, particularly S6, of youngsters who might have left at the end of S5. So the schools are now working really hard on trying to build their own vocational provision within the schools, and we're currently working with them on that, although it's at a fairly early stage. In terms of partnership with businesses and employers, we've got a wide range of employer engagement. I think my own college works with about 600 different businesses, and that's quite often through our mainstream programmes. So a large number of students have, as part of their programme, work experience or work placement, which is built into that framework. So they're required to undertake work placement throughout the year of their study. We know it's a critical part in terms of young people being successful at the end, so we aim to get that work placement in wherever we possibly can. But there's additional initiatives on top of that which further enhance the skills or are targeted to areas where it's not so easy to get a work placement. So in this example, it was really a highly successful partnership project with the PSYBT. Young businesses in the area who had maybe been on the go for about a year, still being supported by PSYBT. Our higher national photography students went out and undertook a brief. So they had a professional brief from the organisation, did some photography work, and that was used either to enhance websites, to produce publications, flyers, do some work on branding. It was really quite varied, but the success was really good, with the businesses feeling that they had really quite a professional service from students and actually having something to show for it at the end of the day by way of improved materials. But for our students, the advantage was really about spending some time with a business startup, because they learned lots and lots about the challenges that young businesses face in trying to start out on their own. And another example of actual business startup from a student, partnership engagement, this time through the Business Gateway, who again have responsibility for trying to support business startup, and the Federation of Small Businesses involved in this as well. So an interesting statistic last week from the PSYBT in terms of their national data, and 22% of young business startups are students who've got HNCs and HNDs. So that's a fifth of young business startup come out of colleges, and I think that's quite often not as well known. This particular story though just, I think, tracks everything all the way through in terms of college experience. A young student who came to us on the schools programme, not doing particularly well at school, not sure what she wanted to do, not particularly clear about her aims, ended up on a hospitality and food and production programme. I don't know if that was by choice or design, but that was the programme she embarked on. However, really blossomed on that programme, and was fortunate enough in that we've got a twinning arrangement with an area in Texas called Grapevine. Grapevine is a huge big conferencing area, banqueting hotels, because it serves one of the local airports. It's a big conference area. So fundraising in the college, hospitality stuff, held a ceilidh, all the usual things, and we sent out 4 students, of which this young woman was one of them. Spent a month out there working in some of the biggest hotels in America, and just came back and her world had gone from this to this actually. And at the end of her course, took that brave step and started up on her own small business, which was one of those kind of lunch vans, so it's called Munch Up Mandy's. Now I don't know if that business is still going, but what I do know, and what the evidence tells us, is that if somebody has already embarked on a business idea, whether or not it's successful, they're likely to do so again. So in some ways, that'll be part of her journey. Turning to the key strengths with the university sector, again, a lot of progress has been made over the past years in terms of really formalising some of the articulation links. So students can undertake an HNC at college and should be able to go into year 2 at university in a similar discipline, or an HND with direct entry into year 3. That has not always been the case. It's often been accompanied by other conditions and been a wee bit bespoke depending on the course. So there's been a lot of work done with the regional hubs, and in the east, ELRA, which is Edinburgh and Lothian's Regional Articulation Hub, is the group that looks at the partner colleges and universities, and you can see they're listed there. It includes Fife, the Lothians, and down to the borders, so all involved with the key universities in the east to map out all the articulation pathways. Also to try and give some guarantee of articulation numbers, and I have to say that there was a variety in Scotland, but in the east, the ELRA hub last year, when universities were severely under pressure for places, they still held up that number of articulating students, so that was really positive. I'm not expecting to read this, it's just to show you an idea about how the tables are laid out and the kind of samples. So all that happens here is we have a process. First one is HN Engineering Systems, that's with Edinburgh Napier, and then the range of degree options and the entry point for the students. So that's the way that all the courses are mapped and articulated, and lots of information about that for young people or adults in colleges. And one of the case studies from that, a few areas I said already where students can complete their studies right up to degree level in some colleges, and that's usually a wee bit determined by geography. So if you're in an area in Scotland where you've got a clutch of neighbouring universities like we have here, then that's less likely. But if you're maybe somewhere else in Scotland where there's not a university as close by, quite often the college will go up to degree level, but that's a partnership degree. It's the university that accredits it, it's the universities that quality assure it, but they are delivered in partnership. And this example is a young man who obtained his BSc in quantity surveying, delivered at Smith College in Fife, validated by Heriot Watt and Abertay. But for him, as you can see, the support locally was what made the difference to his ability to study on that programme. And another example in this case, and you can see the range of degrees, which is really of good quality, at the BSc Applied Networking Technologies, and again, delivered at Adam Smith, which is a large college, obviously, accredited by Abertay and Heriot Watt. But in this example, the student was able to study his HNC, HND, also incorporate industry standard qualifications. He undertook the Microsoft vendor qualifications as part of his framework, got to take part in the World Skills competitions, and then achieve his BSc in applied networking. So unsurprisingly, comes out with a successful full-time job at the end. But it lets you see the richness of his experience in obtaining these things. And the last case study is one which is called Engineers of the Future, and it's actually brings together colleges, employers and universities. And it's a highly innovative programme, modern apprenticeship, Engineers of the Future, really groundbreaking company-sponsored programme. So in this case, sponsored by Ineos, one of the big petrochemical companies, and it combines practical studies, work placement and academic study. Young people are recruited onto the programme. As part of that 5 years, they would complete an HNC, an HND, a level VQ3, an ordinary degree in tandem with a year's industry experience, and then through to honours and masters in one of the related disciplines of mechanical, electrical, chemical, instrument or systems engineering. So it's a really high quality programme, actually recruiting bright, able youngsters who want to go all the way through to masters. Benefits are clear, companies are quite clear about it. They get work-ready graduates who are familiar with industry standards. For the learners, they're paid while they learn, experience with leading companies and actually unrivaled support and mentorship. So really quite a stunning experience. So I've genuinely only given you a snapshot. There are thousands of examples about different case studies in college, but I hope I've been able to demonstrate that it's not a competition. I think this is really quite important. It's not a competition between school and college. It's not a competition between college and university. It is about trying to give individual choices for young people, which allows them to have diverse opportunities, alternative routes to where they want to get to, and ultimately delivering on success for them. And what can you do? Today is all about, I guess, learning and hearing from different areas, but thinking about, well, how can you help to make things happen? And I think it is about being well informed and knowing what's available, knowing about all the progression routes, because unless it's your daily business, maybe not unlikely to hear about some of these things. Knowing about the partnerships between the different organisations, I think that's where colleges do play a key role, so that you can advise and support young people. And I appreciate that today my focus has been on young people. I could have run the same presentation and talked about adults all the way through, so it's not about this age or that age. I think the same opportunities apply all the way through. But I think more recent, and certainly over the last couple of years, college places are becoming ever more competitive. Everybody knows about the cuts to college places, everybody knows about regionalisation, and there's some rationalisation of that. Therefore, demand for places is high. In my own college just now, we are 76% up on applications this time last year. And last year, we're up on applications from the year before. So we are seeing increased pressure even in this year, so this is beyond recession now this year for the places we have available. And so what we know is that young people really do need to make a good job of their applications, and they need to come prepared for interview skills. And that varies so significantly. You get youngsters' applications or adult applications that are thought out, they're careful, they're considered, they've obviously been supported, through to the other end of the spectrum where you still see applications with a sentence on it, and that quite frankly doesn't do justice to the applicant, and it's unlikely to help their chance of success. So it's about competitive places and people being prepared when they come along to make the best of that. So I hope I've convinced you that college is a positive choice, and hopefully given you more insight into the opportunities if you didn't already have them. And if you have, I hope I've endorsed what you know already. So thank you, and questions? And we've got a roving mic for questions. I think we've got 5 minutes. Oh, good.
Hi Mhairi, thanks for that. Over the last few years, have there been big changes to what your offer is in terms of courses? What have been the main sort of changes and drivers to what you offer?
Probably two big drivers for the changes. One is I touched earlier on about the real drive for everything being accredited and a qualification. So I think, and I speak across the board here, in a range of colleges there's been a lot of access type or entry or tasters, and in fairness I think a lot of them have been really quite radically reduced. I'm not saying that's all good, because I think for some adults you still want that pathway. So there's been various regulations about courses under 10 hours won't count. So there's been quite a lot of drivers coming at us from the funding point of view, and the other big driver is about your programme should lead to an outcome, whether that is to a higher level course or whether it's into employment. So quite a lot of work about aligning provision to say, is that where the demand is in terms of skills? And for the life of me, if somebody can give me the blueprint on that one, I'll be delighted. But certainly looking at programmes where we may have no relationship with skills areas, or where we've got areas where we've got I could tell you, we could fill our, and it's a favourite national topic, we could fill our hairdressing programmes 20 times over. It would be utterly irresponsible to run 20 programmes because there would not be the jobs or opportunities. So it is about a sensible aligning of the curriculum, and that probably has changed in most colleges.
Are universities asking for more from your HNC and HND students?
I've talked about the work with the LRAP, which has been really positive. There have always been standards and expectations from articulating students, so quite often they're asked to get an A in their graded unit, which is an externally assessed graded unit. That actually has always been the case. I think in fairness, and it did differ across Scotland, we heard different stories last year, but in the East there was an agreement about the articulating number of students. That was not down individually to every college, that's about across the whole of this area we will hold up, for argument's sake, 100 places, and that was held. But those students still had to attain the standards that were expected. Colleges would accept that it should be every bit as competitive for HNC students as it is for higher students. So I would think it was pretty unfair if youngsters are having to get A's and B's and the highers to get in, and our students are not having to have that same. So the articulation is a bit of ring fencing, but it's still a competitive bit of ring fencing, if that makes sense. Okay. Well, the last burning questions. Not ready to nod off yet now. I'm getting a quick burst of sunshine in between the next seminar. Okay, in that case, thanks very much for your time. I hope it's been useful. Thank you.